for our yearly look at what has been happening in the Porsche market. I say yearly, firstly because I did a video exactly a year ago called Which Porsche Gives You the Biggest Bang for Your Buck, where I took the values of all the 911s, Boxsters and Caymans and entered them into a spreadsheet. And secondly, it takes so much time to enter all the cars into a spreadsheet that I can't do it more than once a year. At least what you see here is completely factual. Well, I've done it again, and of course between August 2020 and now we've had quite the year. If you've gone into a Porsche dealership of late, you'll think they've become suppliers of SUVs, as pretty much the only thing they've had for sale are Cayennes and Macans. There are pretty much no new 911s or 718s for sale at the moment, and if you want one, the dealer doesn't really know much more than you do about when you'll get one. I had a friend inquire about a new Boxster just the other day and he was told 12 to 18 months. Also, slightly off topic, I'm told that new GT3s are going for $100,000 over sticker, which gives you an idea as to whether you can actually buy a new car at sticker anymore at the moment. There are nearly $400 million worth of Porsche sports cars on the market right now. That's way up from last year, and when I say way up, I mean 60% up from last year. To understand why, we must dig into the data, and we shall, but safe to say it's a classic case of supply and demand, and also dealers going much further into the used car market than they normally would. You see, Porsche is suffering from what the rest of the world is suffering from: the pandemic and the failure of just-in-time supply chain logistics. Car manufacturers don't keep a stockroom full of parts that they pick off the shelf when they need them. They order them for delivery precisely when they're needed. That works brilliantly when there is a constant and consistent demand. But when demand falls off, then it means that manufacturers of components stop making them. And then when demand picks up again, there is far, far too much demand than they can ever supply, and it takes time to catch up. In this case, it is semiconductors that are causing the problem. It's all very well being able to make a car, but if you don't have the semiconductors to finish the job, then it stops you dead, and that's what's happened here, meaning that dealers don't have any cars to sell. If I go back to March of 2021, when I did my review of the Cayman GTS 4 litre, I remember seeing a line of brand new 911s at my local dealership. Of course, those were ordered in 2020 and they quickly sold out because people wanted to enjoy their money in a car when they couldn't spend it on other things like vacations during lockdown. This means that dealers have now gone into the used market and are competing with the already strong demand for a finite supply of quality used cars to satisfy their customers. But let's take a look at the data and see what it tells us anyway. We'll do it by model so you can see what is happening to the value of your car in the 12 months to now. As I said before, the total value of the market has soared by 60%. That number, of course, is a factor of two things: the price per unit and the numbers of units. So 400 million represents an overall average 12.9% increase in price and a near 43% increase in the number of cars for sale. That tells me that prices are sky high and there is a lot of supply, and that tells me that now is a good time to sell used and buy new. There are new cars in the system, but they may not be in your local dealership. You have to hunt and then hope that the dealer doesn't charge you over sticker. But that's my first recommendation. If you have a good used Porsche to sell, do it now and get into a new 911 or 718. The last time we saw a crisis like this was in 2008, and if you look at 997 values now, and we will, you'll see that those cars hold their value remarkably well, because not many were supplied at the time. Therefore, if you sell now, you do so at the top of the market, and you'll get into a car that will be rare, because, frankly, not many cars were made in 2021. Let's start with the 996 then. Many people are saying that it is the year of the 996, and that 996 values are soaring. Well, I can tell you that is pretty much true for all cars, so the real question is, are 996s going up in value more than the rest of the market? And the answer, in the case of Carreras and Turbos, is very much yes. Those two are at numbers 3 and 5 in our table of 24 Carrera, Carrera 4S, Turbo and GT3 cars across all the years. starting with the 996. Even the 4S has done well, and the GT3, of which there really aren't many for sale and are a bit statistically irrelevant, has gone up pretty well. A couple of factors at play here, I think. They are still the cheapest 911 of all, and thus still the most affordable, and that tends to be the car people look for when prices are going up. IMS issues have mainly been taken care of, given the youngest car is 16 years old, and people consider that the risk is worth it to get into a 911. Also, when they get there, they realise that it is a damn good car. I am biased though, as you know. Pick of the bunch is still the turbo, and even despite the price increase of 30% year on year, I still think it's the bargain of all Porsche sports cars at the moment. I think that still has some way to go actually, so of them all, that's the one I'd have. Moving on to the star of our show, the 997. Remember what I said earlier about low production numbers of 997s, particularly the 997.2 from 09 onwards during the credit crunch? Well look, the 997 Carreras have leapt up in price since last year by over 40%, but also the number of them for sale has too, taking a vast jump by over 400%. So much choice, I really question whether it's sustainable. The one I would look for is the 997.2 Carrera with the PDK gearbox. I think these are still good value if you can find one. I don't think they're investments, but I do think it's a good buy for retaining value. Also remember the 997 was the last of the Metzger engine on the turbo models, and also the last turbo with a manual gearbox. So I think these have some way to go too. If you watch my turbo comparison video between the 997 and 996, you'll understand why. 991s then. There are so many of these for sale it is untrue. Over 1,000 actually, and the range with the largest number of cars on the market. Looking visually similar to the current cars and being quite recent, only having gone out of production 2 years ago, they are quite naturally in strong demand. And of course there are leased cars being disposed of now at the end of 2, 3 or 4 year cycles. So supply is way up by nearly 40% overall, and actually 56% for the second generation 991.2. So the 991.1 Carrera makes number 7 on our list of cars whose prices have risen in the past year, and the GT3 is also the fastest rising GT3 on our list too, going up 26% since last year. We'll see what happens to that number now that the GT3 version of 992 has been launched and is gradually getting into the market. Bucking the trend, there are actually fewer 991 GT3s on the market compared to last year. Before we move into the Boxster and Cayman worlds, a quick look at 992s. I mean quick look because obviously they're still producing those, technically speaking, and so it's a different analysis given supply is being added to by the manufacturer. Have a look at the average prices of the main models in that range. The oldest car here is no more than 18 months old, so I've added a snapshot of the current sticker prices for these cars so you can see what they're doing relative to new. There are new cars in these averages, and as I said before, I don't know if they are actually available at the prices being advertised or if dealers are asking for overs. If you know, hit me up in the comments because it will help others. Whilst I'm here, would you mind hitting the like button if this video is to your liking? It's to help me rise up the algorithm on YouTube. Subscribe too if you'd like to stay for more Porsche fun. Onwards we go anyway. Here is the table for the Boxster and Cayman fraternity. The increase in supply of 981 Boxsters is notable. Remember, those were the last of the flat 6 Boxsters, excepting the new GTS and GT4s. A lot of increases consistently across the board there, but I must say I think that the earliest 986 Boxsters are still the bargain of the century. A convertible Porsche sports car with a flat 6 engine for less than $20,000. Come on, that's cheap even by today's standards. The other ones I'm not so sure. At 55 grand for a 981 Cayman, that is actually more than a 911 997.1 Carrera. I think I'd have the 911, I must say. Same deal with the 718 Cayman. I'd have a 991.1 Carrera all day long before I'd buy a 718 Cayman for 80 grand. Just saying. Well, that's our romp through the 2021 Porsche sports car market. Before I go, let's have a look at the complete table showing which cars have gone up in value the most. Here you go then. Whilst you digest that, I hope you found it entertaining and educational as always. Look out for my series coming next on testing and choosing the best exhaust for my Porsche 996 with Flat 6 Motorsports down in Orlando. I'll be taking my car down there and we will be putting 5 different exhausts on it, from the sublime to the ridiculous, and I'll be choosing one. You hopefully will be there for the ride too. That series is all about sound, so stay tuned, and if you could like and subscribe, that would be most excellent. Otherwise, see you in the next one.